Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. We're here for the weekly chat for the Premier League. We're on to week 10 now, and look who I've got with me this week, Pineman. He's not been on for weeks on end, and I've got a question in regard to that. Is your absence on the channel been because you are bored of the Premier League?
Well, I mean, there's multiple reasons. If we wanted to go into it, I've been quite unwell. Fully recovered now, thankfully. Busy with work, busy with life, but yeah, I mean, look, I can't lie. I am struggling to get myself up for this Premier League format. I defended the format change a couple of years ago. I thought that it needed a freshen up. I liked the fact that it was going to be competitive on a week-to-week basis in terms of having a winner and a final. However, I'm sorry to say, seeing the same 8 players again and again, week after week, and unfortunately for the PDC, the results have been not very favourable in the MVG and Going Price have been absolutely dominating it. Johnny Clayton's win last week, really the first time in a long time that we've seen anyone outside of the top 2 go and win it. Don't get me wrong, I think I'll really enjoy watching finals night, but I would rather that finals night was next week, if that makes sense. 16 weeks of this as a neutral viewer, I'm just pretty fed up with it, to be honest. And when I compare it to, the Euro Tour action that I watched at the weekend, I love that. I love the Players' Championship. But yeah, I have just got a bit fed up with this format. But alas, it's still, it's nice to have some top quality darts to watch on a Thursday. I know, if you're in attendance, it's a great evening. But for me as a viewer on the TV, I'm pretty fed up with it.
Right. Maybe that's one for another day in more detail, but yeah, I think that is a growing theme of opinion across the world of darting fans. But like you say, if you're going to Birmingham Arena this week, you're going to have yourself a good time. Last week, Johnny Clayton put himself right back in the top 4 contention, Pineman, by winning night number 9 in Germany. It was the first time in 6 weeks that someone other than Van Gerwen or Price had won. And it was also the first time in 6 weeks that Van Gerwen went out in the first round. That's only happened twice in 9 nights for Van Gerwen. So that consistency sees him at the top of the league. Gerwin Price has been inconsistent, but his wins recently have seen him go clear second. So yeah, Clayton is chasing down Aspinall for that 4th place. Any other general thoughts on week number 9 in Germany?
Not really. Well, I enjoyed the atmosphere. And Going Price has said it since after the Euro Tour in Germany as well that he's thoroughly enjoying playing in front of the German fans, and I think that is something to factor in. Going forward, if there's an event outside of the UK, Price is just seemingly really, really thriving on the lack of abuse from the crowds, and I think he's starting to win over a few crowds over here as well. I've noticed that the abuse towards him is significantly less than it was last year. Which is a really good thing for us who are just wanting to see him play his best darts. And I'm sure we'll come on to it, but he is playing darts from another stratosphere at the moment.
Yeah, and that leads us on nicely to the Euro Tour. He's now won 2 Euro Tours in a row. He's just pinging. That first start in the 180 is a thing of beauty from Gerwin Price in the last few weeks. And we got the final we all wanted in Germany over the weekend in that Euro Tour event. I think it was number 3 of the season, and Van Gerwen against Price in the final, and at one stage Price was about 6-2 up, never looked like getting beat, averaging 107-ish, and won easy in the end. So that puts him into some nice form going into this weekend, this Thursday, should I say.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, I talk about getting a bit bored with the format, but the first thing I do every week now is I look whether Price and Van Gerwen are in separate halves of the draw, and whether they're going to meet in the final. And once again, we have a week where there is a possibility of a Price versus Van Gerwen final. I think we have to all say that on all balance of probability, that is the likeliest final, because Chris Dobey, for all his promise early on, has struggled to string any wins together. He faces MVG in the opener, and I'm struggling to make a case for him. I mean, I went through a little bit of a phase where I thought, well, there's not a lot between these guys. You've got to back them at the prices and whatever. But to my eye at the moment, MVG and Price are just playing way above the rest of the pack at the moment. And I struggle to take them on, really.
Yeah, and that's why they're going to be, if you look on this screen, that's why they're going to be, finalist, favourites again to be winning week number 10. I don't know why the prices are shown in the mad alphabetical order here, but yeah, Van Gerwen 7-4 to win this week, Price 11-4 to win this week in opposite sides of the draw, as you allude to. And that brings us a little bit to the table, Pineman, if you like. Peter Wright has still only won one game in 9 weeks. It's incredible, really, isn't it? And he's got a tough opening fixture against world champion Michael Smith.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, he's had some performances away from the Premier League where, occasionally he looks back to being like a decent level, but generally the theme of his year has been an absolute disaster. And you do always worry when players get to this point in their career, Wright's kind of, I don't want to say he's on the slide, but he's achieved all that he needs to achieve, doesn't he, really? And, for every, I don't want to say Gary Anderson is back. I've managed to mention Gary Anderson in this video, but you never really know when a player has a slump at that point of their career, whether they're ever going to get back to where they were. I don't think it's quite at that point for Wright just yet. He's certainly playing it down in his interviews. It's just, I've had equipment issues, or something's not coming, I've been ill, and stuff. These all may be legitimate claims, but this is a sustained run of bad form. Now, nobody could have predicted that Peter Wright would win one game in the first 8 or 9 weeks of the Premier League. It's obscene, really. And I do think that now, you could argue that he's playing with a level of freedom because he's out. I think he may lose interest in this tournament. He may have already lost interest in this tournament. I don't think realistically he has any chance of making that Final Four. And, the other three should all fancy their chances of sneaking in to an extent, because aside from Van Gerwen and Price, it's been much of a muchness between the remaining 5, I would say, to be fair. And even Dimitri Van den Bergh down on 9 points. And Michael Smith on 15. I wouldn't say there's been a lot between them over the course of, Smith's maybe had one particularly strong week that flown him up against past Van den Bergh. But, if they were facing each other right now in a coin flip, I wouldn't be against Dimitri. It's slightly odds against, you know what I mean? I don't think there's a lot between them, really.
Yeah, well, I just don't think Dimitri should be in this tournament at all, to be honest. He just he annoys me. But yeah, it's quite close for that 4th spot. I mean, you've got to give hats off to Nathan Aspinall, who has not won a night, but still finds himself within the top 4 just through pure consistency, as you can see there, of couple of a few semi-finals, 1 runners-up spots, just keeps notching up some wins, and up the table you will go. Johnny Clayton really needed that win last week on the overall night, and that puts him right back in the mix. As for this week, Pyman, how do you see it going? As you say, the 2 big dogs are in opposite sides of the draw. They're both short prices to win their respective opening round games. There's only one real close game in terms of the betting this week, and that's Aspinall against Clayton. But yeah, I'm not sure where your money might be going, or particularly is there any standout in the first round?
I'm not so sure about standout in terms of match betting. As you say, there's one tight match here with Aspinall and Clayton, and I wouldn't be in a rush to oppose Nathan Aspinall. I do think Johnny Clayton's in the slightly better form of the two over the last 2 or 3 weeks as a sample. But yeah, Aspinall, for all the reasons you said there, I mean, he hasn't won a night yet. He still finds himself in the mix for that top 4 because he is a master of winning these early games. He grinds out results, and he normally gets found out in the latter stages of the evening by a Van Gerwen or a Price. So I wouldn't be in a rush to take him on. I do think that's a tight game. Clayton probably would be an arrow favourite for me. Look, I just think 11-4 on Gerwen Price. Keep it very simple. He's playing the best darts out of any of these 8 guys. His confidence is sky high. This is the first time we've seen Price have a positive run in the Premier League. He's never really taken to this competition previously. Now he's winning all sorts of tournaments, and he's banging contention to win this. I can guarantee you he wants to top the table now ahead of MVG. And I think while he's on such fine form, I don't think he should be 11-4 here versus 7-4. I think it's very likely that they meet in the final. And again, if they do play in the final, I believe Price went off favourite against MVG at the weekend in the Euro Tour final. Very narrow, of course, but that was proved to be correct. I would expect he would go off favourite again here. So to me, the market is almost implying that they don't expect Price to, have a stronger chance of getting to the final. I don't fear anything there with Gerwen Price. I think he beat Dimitri Van den Bergh quite easily. And even a game against Michael Smith, you've got to say Michael Smith isn't where he was 3 months ago. He's doing it in flashes, but we're constantly seeing him on the Pro Tour and the Euro Tour get knocked out in, with low 90s, high 80s averages. You don't expect that from Michael Smith. So I'm take no hesitation in backing Gerwen Price to win this night at 11-4.
I would have hesitation a little bit, Pam. And I mean, look how many 180s Michael Smith hit last week. 15. I think that's the most so far this year in the 9 nights.
No one's going to outscore Gerwen Price at the moment, though.
Well, that's true. Like I say, going in that lipstick with the first start.
Some of his stats from the weekend, he wasn't necessarily winning the 180 count, but he was just relentless 140s.
Yeah.
You know, 140, 2 treble visits virtually every time. I mean, he's throwing 9 darts and he's got 2 figures check left most legs. Dan Dawson reeled off a ridiculous stat about how many 11 and 12 darters he had over the course of that weekend, and that is just relentless. You know, even if you do have a leg off, you know, if you're constantly checking out in 4 visits to the board, no one's going to be able to live with that. So I just think it's a price play. We talk about this every week. What is the price? If it was the other way around, I maybe wouldn't rush to back it, but I can't have him, you know, a point bigger than MVG on what they've both achieved and been in separate halves of the draw.
I said similar last week, and unfortunately, Clayton saw off his Welsh counterpart in the semi-final in a narrow game, 6-4 there. So yeah, I did make a similar argument last week. I think he was about 7-2-ish, and Van Gerwen was similar price to what he is now. It would officially be no bet from me this week, Pipeman, but that's a good job that you're on because you're with Gerwen price at 11-4. So. Is there any other specials up there for this week, Pipeman? Have you looked as far as
there isn't at the moment that have taken my eye. I certainly will have a look on Thursday, nearer the time, nearer the off. I just wondered, do we have the table in front of us here? Could you get the league table up?
Yeah, there you go.
Because I noticed that MVG is now quite long odds on to top the league. And this may be of interest to some. Going price now out at 10-3. There may be bigger out there to top the league, but if you are of the belief that price is going to go and win this night, then you know the league could be looking significantly tighter in the next week or two. So I don't think he's dead and buried in that market yet, because I just got so much confidence in the way he's playing at the moment. You may want to take a look at that 10-3. I think it is between them two, isn't it, realistically?
Oh yeah.
And look, the format of the Premier League does lend itself to somebody kind of muddling through and, you know, sneaking into fourth, and then they'll have a chance on the night. You know, it is literally just a one-off game on the night. So if anyone was looking to play with a little bit more value, I think it's probably been snaffled now, but Johnny Clayton's win last week gives him a great chance of getting into that top 4. We know that he can beat Van Gerwen in price when he's on his best, but it just wouldn't be for me at the minute, because I've just got a lot of faith in the way the top 2 are playing, and I fully see them being the top 2 in the league and then meeting in the final and it being a blockbuster final. That's what I'm seeing at the moment. You know, I love a long shot, but I can't put it up if I don't believe it's going to happen. So.
Well, and the only times that you don't back Gary Anderson is when he's not actually entered in a tournament, and this isn't one such example. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, that wraps up.
I'd probably back Gary Anderson to win this over Peter Wright at the moment, to be fair.
Right, that'll wrap up the Premier League Week 10 preview. So Pipeman is with Gerwen price at 11-4. It's a no bet from me, but plenty to look forward to as always. And thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon with more darting content.